Hey guys, Radical Reggie here, and today we're going to look at 4 survival horror games. Me and my buddy Josh, we decided to bring back the Horror Insider Show, so hopefully you guys enjoy the video. Let me know what you guys think, and hopefully we'll come up with more of these in the future. So let's take a look. I'm Radical Reggie.
And I'm Retro Gaming Maniac.
And welcome to the Horror Insider Show. Hello everyone, and welcome to today's episode. Today's game, of course, is Chaos Break. Chaos Break was released in 2000. It only came out in Japan and PAL territories, and it's pretty much a shame that it didn't reach American shores. This game is a total hidden gem for survival horror buffs.
Like Reggie was saying, it's a real shame this game was not released in the US because this game did something a little different than the other games that tried to copy Resident Evil. Because when Resident Evil first came out, there was a whole slew of survival horror games that pretty much copied and pasted Resident Evil's format for a survival horror game. And while that's cool and all, because I love those games, Chaos Break did something different, which was making the controls a lot more fluid. Reggie, why don't you go ahead and tell them about that?
You'll notice that in this game that the controls are not tank controls. You have full control of your character in 3D, which is really nice for this type of game. Enemies are relentless in this game, and you have to be on the ready. There is an evasive move that will help you get out of enemy attacks. It's very important that a lot of people learn that move in the beginning, because if not, you could be stuck in some bad situations.
One thing that I really like about the controls in this game is just how free you are to move your character. You're no longer stuck with the tank controls, which are okay in certain games, but it's nice to see a game take a risk and kind of branch off from that. And another thing that I really like about it is the melee attack that you can do. You can literally run towards an opponent, do a melee attack, and then use that evasive maneuver Reggie was talking about. It really helps with the combat in the game. Makes it different, makes it a little faster, a lot more fun, and you can actually almost go through the whole game using just the melee attack. So, and I actually do recommend doing that because you're going to want to save that ammo for later.
One thing when you play this game is very familiar with Resident Evil is the voice acting.
Visibility is lousy. Which way should we go, Rick?
Now the voice acting, while not bad, is pretty hilarious, but it's just really, it's kind of like that so bad is good type of thing, and it'll really make you feel at home.
Did you know that Chaos Break is actually the sequel to a game called Chaos Heat, which was an arcade game released in 1998? The game could be played with 1 or 2 characters and allowed you to get control of weapons like flamethrowers and machine guns and fight zombies and creatures in a laboratory setting.
You know, Chaos Break is pretty much one of those survival horror games that came out of nowhere. One thing that you'll notice about the game is the story mode, where a lot of other survival horror games, your characters have no idea what they're getting into. In Chaos Break, you pretty much get a briefing, so you know somewhat what you're getting into.
So I can definitely recommend this game. If you're a gamer looking to play an old school survival horror game with more modernized controls, this is the game for you. Great gameplay, great controls, good graphics. The voice acting is funny, could use some work. It's not as bad as Resident Evil. But basically, like we were saying earlier, this game was only released in Europe and Japan. So do what you gotta do to play it. It's definitely worth it. It has its flaws, but it's definitely a hidden gem, and I definitely recommend it.
So all in all, I really think people will enjoy Chaos Break. I mean, it's unfortunate that it wasn't released worldwide, but still, if you're able to play this game, I mean, it's definitely one of the games that I would say survival horror people will want to have in their collection, or just at least play. I mean, what's done in the game, I think is done pretty well. I mean, the only thing I would really hold against this game is it's kind of short, but you know, that's okay. You know, sometimes you don't want games to be too long. Short and sweet is good too. I mean, now I'm not gonna say that your first time playing it is gonna be short. I mean, it'll be pretty long, but when you know where everything is and what to do, I mean, your playthroughs of the game will be pretty fast. So Chaos Break, definitely a game I think everyone should play.
Klaatu, Barada, Nikto.
So Hellnight came out in 1998 in Japan and 1999 in Europe. It was actually published by Konami in Europe, but it didn't have a big print run, and unfortunately the game just is not really known. Had it been released in America, I'm pretty sure it would have been what you would call a hidden gem. But one thing about this game is that it throws, when you start the game, it throws you in there. I mean, where you know you're in for something special. You are being chased by an unknown entity, and you have to run for your life at all means.
So Hellnight is yet another survival horror game that did not get released in the US. And it kind of sucks because it seems like there's always such, good games that don't get released over here. But anyways, so the game starts off at what I thought was going to be like a point and click game. I was thinking Hellnight was going to be something else, and then it starts you off in this, still shot of a room, and you're moving this cursor around, clicking on different things, and you're finding out different things. I was like, okay, I guess this is a point and click game, so it kind of threw me off. But immediately after that, you're in the sewers, you're being chased by a creature, one hit, you're dead, and there's nowhere to hide. So it really gives you that sense of dread.
So yeah, like Josh was saying, you are in the sewer, it's dark, you can't see anything, it's terrifying, and you know something is wrong and you need to get out of there immediately. That's where your partner comes in. You're in the sewer with a girl, and she kind of guides you on what you need to do. She'll give you hints like, hey, we need to get out of here, of course, or the monster's nearby, run away. Stuff like that is really helpful. But what you need to know is that if the monster catches up to you, it will kill her first. And then if you have no guidance, then you're pretty much on your own. Another thing is, while you're down there, you don't have a map of the sewer, so you kind of, wherever you go, it kind of creates your own map in the top right hand corner. You want to get out of the sewer as soon as possible because this monster is relentless. He's waiting around corners. He's very clever. It's very terrifying. You have that sense of dread that's that comes with a lot of old school survival horror games.
So like Reggie was saying, this game gives you that sense of dread. And if I had to compare this game to a modern survival horror game, I would say it gives me the same feeling, or the same feeling of dread that Outlast does. Or that, if you're familiar with Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, which I'm sure you are, running from the Nemesis feels exactly like running from this creature in Hellnight. And it's the same feeling you get in Outlast when you're running from the Warden. The controls are kind of tight and a little stiff, that's what she said. But so it makes making those turns a little difficult when you're trying to run from this creature. But the sense of dread is there, and games like this, it really sucks that it didn't get released in the U.S. Because now you just got to emulate it or find a way to play it on a a PAL PlayStation, on a PAL TV. But do what you got to do to play it.
So eventually you'll make it to an underground city. The city, it looks like an underground castle in a way. Very cool looking, but as soon as you get there, you're under an alert, and it's pretty tense. The monster is still after you, and you do get to talk to the people and kind of see what's going on. They'll talk to you. It's kind of like, I guess I would say it's like an underground bunker, but it really looks like, I don't know, it really looks like a castle. But anyways, you'll be down there. You'll talk to people to find out what's going on. And unfortunately, your friend is there with you. The monster follows you all the way there. And what the weird thing about it is, he's actually evolving and he's getting smarter. So you have to be very, very careful.
Like Reggie was saying earlier, the companions that are with you kind of get taken out first if the creature, gets too close to you. So what you got to do is you got to make sure that, for one, you run fast, and two, try to keep those characters alive, because once they're gone permanently. They can't come back, and kind of sucks for them, but you're gonna have to use them as a human shield essentially. They act as your continues, or your how many lives you have, because once they're gone and it's just you, if he gets close to you, you're dead. But anyways, make sure you check this game out. Watch some gameplay of it on YouTube. But it's definitely worth checking out, I think.
One more thing I want to tell you guys about Hellnight. Running from the monster is essential, but just remember this. Running, your character does get tired, and as they get tired, they start to breathe harder. And then what that means is they slow down, and the monster could possibly hear you. So just be very cautious, you know. Don't run all over the place, but run when you know you're in immediate danger. As far as his recommendations for Hellnight, I'll say it's definitely worth getting. You know, the price has gone up for it. Well, it was a limited release game anyway, and at least in PAL territories. Unless you can read Japanese, I would say pick that one up. But if you want an English copy of the game, it might cost you a little bit. You know, I would say, hey, you know, you get your tax return or you get a big check. You know, hey, celebrate. You know, pick up Hellnight. It's definitely a keeper. So Siren, also known as Forbidden Siren, was released in Japan in 2013 and 2014 in America. Now this game was created by Sony Interactive Entertainment, and you might know them from making games such as Ico, Shadow of the Colossus, and stuff like that. But one thing about Siren is it is a different type of survival horror, is where it relies on stealth and also the sight jacking system.
So the first time I played Siren was actually on a demo disc that I had that also included Silent Hill 3. And like Reggie was talking about, this game relies more on stealth than it does action and attacking enemies. Yes, you can attack enemies, but you're going to mostly want to creep around them. It has a lot of stealth elements to it, so really avoiding contact with these enemies is your best bet because they will wreck you. They are really hard to take down. And like Reggie mentioned also, you have this ability called Sight Jack. And with Sight Jack, you can actually use that and see what your enemy is seeing. Now you can use it to help navigate to get around them, or you can actually use it to listen to what they're talking about. And the first time I used it was really creepy. Just something about seeing through the eyes of your enemy really creeped me out, and the environment and level is just set up really well. Very creepy game.
Now, Siren is one of the first games to use a sight jacking system, which is pretty much seeing what your enemy sees. And this is going to help you get around. This is essential to learn because Siren is the type of game it's not necessarily if you get caught the first time it's game over, but your character is not really prepared to deal with the situation. So you really want to avoid combat as much as possible. Maybe once you get caught and get away, twice you're lucky, but 3 times it's just going to be tough. So just be aware because your enemies will know where you're at and they will try to follow you relentlessly.
So one thing I really like about Siren is the environment that the level takes place in. It reminds me a lot of Fatal Frame. It's an old Japanese village and it's dark, it's quiet, there's a lot of fog, very creepy. And while the graphics aren't amazing, they did a really good job on the characters' facial expressions, which look almost lifelike. So the game doesn't have bad graphics. I'd say it's like Silent Hill graphics, maybe not quite as good, but they did a really good job on the characters' facial expressions and everything, making it feel really lifelike.
I always felt that Siren was a game that was ahead of its time. You know, it used processes that I'd never seen used in games before at the time. The polygonal transformation, which would use real people's faces expressions and put them in the game. You know, I thought that it was really well done. I'm not sure if that was the first time it's been done, but they did it really well. You know, I remember playing the game, I was like, wow, this looks like real people, you know, and that kind of adds to the tension of the game and everything like that. You know, Siren is one of those games, it's totally hidden, and a lot of people don't talk about it, you know, but it's actually an excellent game, and it really, you have to have a lot of patience to play it, not to the point that it'll drive you crazy, but you can't be too witty and run out and do stuff in the game. You have to be careful and kind of map out your surroundings by using the sight jack system, because enemies can see you well, you can't see them too well, so make sure you can see where they're at through their eyes.
Did you know that Siren came out in 2003 in North America, Japan, and PAL territories? But in 2006, a sequel was made called The Forbidden Siren 2, but was only released in PAL territories and Japan. But then in 2008, a reimagining of the series called Siren Blood Curse was released on the PlayStation 3. While Japan and PAL territories received a physical copy of this game, North America did not, and currently the only way to play this game is to download it for the PlayStation Store.
So Siren is one of those games that a lot of people don't know about, and the good thing about it is that this one is actually cheap. It's like $10-15, maybe $20, but it's a game that you can find pretty easily. It's cheap, and if there's one thing I would have to critique about it, and it's funny. So most survival horror games have bad voice acting. Now this one, the voice acting is fine, but what's funny about it is the game is taking place in Japan, but all of the characters have British accents.
What do we do now?
All we can do is wait here until Makino and the others arrive.
And it's not like a British person trying to do like a Japanese accent. It's straight up British accents the whole way, so it's kind of funny. But, you know, it's one of those things that is easily overlooked, and it doesn't take away from the game at all. Definitely a game worth checking out.
Little Nightmares. It also used to be known as Hunger, but I'll go into that later. It's a game made by Tarsier, or Tarsier, however you want to kind of pronounce it. And it came out in May of 2017. And this is an action, well, not action, but I would say a platform puzzle type game, slash horror. And horror in the way of, if you've seen movies like The Nightmare Before Christmas, in that way. Horror that's aimed at little kids. But you start off as a little girl named Six, and she is stuck in a mall, and she's in the depths of the mall, and she's trapped down there, and she decides to get out.
So Little Nightmares is a puzzle platformer with some horror thrown in, and you play as a little girl named Six, and the game revolves around trying to creep around these monsters that look like something straight out of really a children's nightmare. Like if you were a kid and you had a nightmare about monsters, these are the monsters you'd be, you know, afraid of. This is what would be in your dream or in your nightmare. They're very scary. The game is really almost like a work of art. Like you look at it, it's beautiful. The animations are great, and it plays sort of like Limbo if you play like that, which is another puzzle platform.
So like Josh was saying, this game really reflects on children's nightmares. And when I say that, I mean that I talk about like kids always talking about being chased in their dreams, something reaching out to grab them. This game captures that really well. And it just seems like something out of a nightmare. You know, the backgrounds are really fluid. You know, enemies could come out of there from any time to come out and try to get you. So it's really, you really have to look at your surroundings and make sure it's safe to go out. So it has that little tension for you in there.
So this game may not look very scary just from the gameplay, but when you're actually playing it, you are playing as a little girl who's, I mean, just tiny, and you're in this monster's world, in a giant's world, and you're trying to creep around, and with the atmosphere and the music and just everything combined together makes this a very tense game, full of suspense, and you're always just 1 second away from being caught.
them trying to catch you is scary in itself. It's just, when your character is that small, you feel like you have no way of fighting back, you're defenseless. It just does a great job making the game very suspenseful.
So later on in the game, Six actually gets the hunger, which was the original name for the game. And when this happens to her, she's becomes very weak and is not able to function properly. She starts walking really slow, her vision dims, and the first time you actually get a piece of bread to feed the hunger, which helps her get back on her feet. But later on, you know, she gets hungry and then she starts to resort to anything, like, you know, a piece of meat on the ground. You know, it becomes more and more, I would say, that she wants something better to eat, of course, but what she's starting to eat is becoming questionable.
So if you're a fan of puzzle platforming games and horror games as well, this is going to be a game you definitely want to check out. It's got a lot of suspense, and you can tell the developers really put a lot of time and love into this game. And like I said earlier, it's like a work of art. The graphics are beautiful, the sound is great, the music is great, the environments are very creepy. The monsters themselves have a lot of imagination, and they're very scary looking. And also there's a box set you can get that comes with a lot of extras. It's really great. You can come with a little figure of Six. So definitely a game worth checking out. It's kind of short, but don't let that steer you away from the game. It's definitely one that I think you're going to enjoy.
So Little Nightmares has definitely charmed me. You know, it's one of those games I could really look back on and say, yeah, this game is really cool. You know, and if you see Little Nightmares in your local store, you know, don't be afraid to pick it up. You know, it has a lot going for it, you know, and has a lot of potential, possibly maybe even sequels in the future. So that's yet to be seen, but definitely a game that you want to have in your collection. Definitely something you and your family can enjoy. All right, guys, so I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know if you, like I said earlier, if you want more of these type of videos in the future. I work on these with my buddy Josh. He's always at work, so hey, if you want to harass him on his channel too, you can do that. Tell him, hey, you got to get another Horror Insider show ready to go. Anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you later.